Oh boy, aren't we all feeling it? I remember that moment when they announced that kids won't be going back to school in the fall for in person classes. I could feel the stress just slowly taking over me. And then I wondered, what has this pandemic done to my mind and body? Psychologist Dr. Amir Ramezani, I sat down with him to talk about stress and its relation to the brain. Dr. Ramezani, hello, and thank you so much for being here. You could not have been here at a more perfect time.
Oh, yes, I agree. And I'm happy to be here with you.
I'm hoping, I thought about you just a few days ago when all the announcements came down with schools now being closed indefinitely and, state of California starting to go through these rolling closeouts again. I could feel personally a wave of stress just coming right over me. And it made me immediately think of someone like you who understands what is happening up here. And that's why I wanted you to bring you here to talk about what we're feeling right now and how we can manage it. Stress. Our world is stressed right now.
Yeah, and you said it so well. It's really all of us here now. We're all in it together, and we're all going through the same pandemic. And even that there's even some reports that more than 50% of our nation is under so much stress because of financial challenges, caretaking challenges, and so. As you said, the feeling of the weight coming over you, this is what stress does. It's not just what's happening in our environment, but it's also the sort of the reality that we're sort of built with these, biological mechanisms to respond in a particular way. So like our body kind of feeling that weight. So I think, this is, I hope our discussion is not only helpful for us, because I learned too, but also for your viewers too.
I'm a huge fan of leaning on experts and people who have spent their time studying and understanding things that we don't. It seems like nowadays, I saw a funny meme the other day, like graduates of like a coronavirus. Everybody seems to know, and I'm looking for MD or these accolades that come after their name saying, okay, so where did you get this information from? You're one of those people, that brain that I see right over your shoulder. You understand that thing. You understand the thing up in the head right now. And I've shared with you and many of my friends here that just as I'm a big believer that you get your teeth cleaned and you go to the doctor and you get your heart checked and your cholesterol checked, this is a function up here that needs attention. So take us inside that brain that is over your shoulder that all of us have. What is happening to this brain right now during one of the most stressful times in most of our lives?
Yeah, definitely. When we're going through stress, there's many processes that come up. I think it's very important for us to know that we're already built with certain ways of detecting stress, coping with stress, and also the way in which we're driven to manage this stress. So, as you said, kind of taking you inside the brain, we have these primitive centers, like what's referred to as the limbic system. And one part of the limbic system that's really deep in the brain is called the amygdala. It's kind of like an almond-shaped center. And this is responsible for our stress response and our fear response. And what's interesting is that as we're experiencing stress, our body is going to react in a particular way. So, for example, when our stress response is activated, our heart rate's going to go up. We're going to really, our muscles are going to get much more blood flow. We're going to get ready to engage in some sort of action. It's actually really it's supposed to be a protective response. It's supposed to be a helpful way of really surviving. That's just one system. However, we're also built with another system that's now we're referring, there's different ideas around this newer system that we're talking about. There's an idea around what's called polyvagal, or the caretaker system. And this caretaker system is a way in which we're able to nurture and care for not only ourselves when we're in a stressful situation, but also for other people. And this caretaker system, we utilize it a lot, and with other people like our children, our friends, our loved ones, family. But it's really rare for us to really tap into this other caretaker system and turn it towards ourselves when we're experiencing a stressful situation like this pandemic. And so, not only do we have this stress response in the brain, but we also have this amazing ability in our brain and in our body to be able to nurture and care for ourselves and other people.
Why do so many of us react to stress differently? I have friends that are they're a puddle of a mess right now. And I have others that are like, oh, we'll get through it. It is what it is.
Yes, that's a really good question. And it's almost kind of like going to this idea of like what is actually stress. And and I really like what the American Institute of Stress says, which is that one thing that could be stressful for one person could be actually pleasant for another person. And it really kind of highlights this in between, which is that it's not just what's happening in our environment, but how we are seeing what is happening, how we are evaluating it, and our own beliefs, whether those beliefs are from our own culture, from the society that we live in. And so for some people, actually being in a situation where things are out of control has been the norm, so they can easily adapt. For some people, when they've had to structure their life in a particular way so that they don't feel out of control, then when something like the corona hits, it could be very stressful for them. And it's not only just for them, but also for everyone else, because just part of our day-to-day life is thrown off. So it's our everyday life of going out and where do I go to get my groceries? Where do I take my children now for their education? Where do I, just something as simple as where do I go in the morning to pick up my coffee? That's all been changed. So our routine has been thrown off. And some people could deal with the routine being thrown off very easily. Some people cannot. And it also speaks to our internal ability to cope. Kind of going back to this idea of how people respond differently. So, if we have enough coping mechanism to deal with the stress, mental.
When you say coping mechanism, sorry to interrupt, but what does that mean?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, what that means is that do we have the ability to actually to regulate our body? For example, when our body is feeling like our heart is pounding, we're feeling very stressed, we're in the middle of taking care of a loved one, and in that moment, does the person have the ability to mentally kind of come out of the situation, see themselves, and then be able to self-regulate? So, have like some sort of effective self-talk or compassionate way of responding to themselves and the other person who's with them. There's many coping mechanisms. I'm happy to talk about that. But for some individuals, we never learned how to cope with stress. It's not like we go to school and the teacher, at least in my generation, the teacher, now I think they are doing this, but the teacher's like, today you're going to learn about how to manage your stress, how to deal with conflict, and here's how you do it. 1, 2, 3. It's very rare. So we learn this through our parents, friends, our own personal self-development.
And I'm glad you bring that up, because I have admitted, I've talked to you about it, and I tell everybody, like, there is no taboo in my world about having my person, because it took me a lot of money and a lot of time to say, you know what, I got to go figure this out, so that when I deal with stresses in my life, whether it's my 4 kids or my husband that at times could get on my nerves, because that's what husbands sometimes do, but that maybe the Shally uh, 10 years, 15 years ago is different than the Shally is today, and how we react. And I've realized that a lot of it, I can teach this brain, right? We
Yes.
have the ability to change what's up. Just because this was the brain that we were given, and what was that little almond thing that you said we have it all in our brains?
Amygdala.
Yes, just because my whatever is like whatever doesn't mean that I don't have the ability to make changes. We have the power. Am I correct?
Yes, you are exactly, you're 100% correct, because these when we're experiencing a challenge, or when we're feeling out of control, which is mainly what stress is, in that at that point, or in that period, we're experiencing some sort of emotion, and emotions in that moment, they have a beginning and they have an end. And so often when we're in it, it's like, no, this is not going to end. And so we have to we either have to freeze or fight, or we have to flee. Uh, and I think you said it really well. We do need to have the ability to uh, step out of the emotion or the thought that we're experiencing because of the stressful situation, see it, and then be able to redirect our mind to what's really meaningful for us in our lives right now, or even to be kind to ourselves and the other person who we're experiencing the stress with. And that is hard. I gotta say, that is
Oh,
hard.
it's hard. Oh, it's really hard. But when you get there, I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm there, but if you get even close to there, it
Yeah,
feels so much more powerful and better than in what the situation could be.
I totally agree. Yes, when you are able to then really see truly what's really happening, there's a lot of other uh, I think healing type of emotions that naturally come up. So for example, if in that situation we're trying to take care of someone, or we are challenged with money because we lost our job because of the corona, then in that moment when we're feeling like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? We're able to step out and say, oh my gosh, this is, I'm not alone in all this. We're all going through this. And there's a moment of not only acceptance of what's happening, but there's also other feelings like gratitude that comes up, acceptance and kindness and compassion, which really, I think, helps individuals to move it forward in a healthy way.
One of the points you just brought up, Dr. Ramezani, when you were talking about, and I'm curious to know this, that brain, again, I keep looking at that brain when you're talking, because it's the one thing all of us have, right? We all look different from the outside. We like different foods. We speak different languages. We're all different in so many ways, but we still have the same body parts, right?
Yes.
When I look at that brain, I think there's so many of us who want to be able to connect with another person, and that person's going through it. Oh, okay, so maybe I can go through it as well. Is that built into our brains?
Uh, I think I know what you're referring to, but I don't want to assume right now. Can you tell
Okay.
me a little bit more about that?
Yeah,
Because
like,
there's
do
so much
we?
I want to say, but I want to really answer.
Sure, absolutely. And thank you for wanting to clarify that. Does our brain, the function of our brain and all the stuff that's happening over here, do we have this need to want to connect with other people, or to see that, hey, that person is going through pain, so I'm going to be able to deal with my pain as well? Does that connection make it possible for someone to be able to manage their stress as well?
Um, I believe so. I believe so. And our brain is designed to really be to form relationships, and not only just relationships, but really meaningful relationships and connections with other individuals. And what happens is when we don't have that connection, when we can't empathize for someone else when they're going through the same pain, or when we feel that other people are judging us, that is actually painful in us. And not only emotionally, but sometimes even physically, we will experience pain. Um, and so I think that being able to have this common humanity,
Mm-hmm.
this sort of this universal ability to know that, gosh, I'm not the only one here. Because the flip side of stress is that stress makes you feel isolated. So there is no common humanity. It makes you feel criticized, and either by other people or by yourself, which is often the case, especially in our society and our culture, especially things around achievement and really criticism about how we do things. But the flip side of criticism is this kindness and compassion towards ourselves and others. And then when we're feeling stressed, we feel really attached to the situation. We worry, we're really fused with that situation. It's hard for us to do the flip side, which is this sort of spacious attention and presence with our life.
Which brings me to my next question, Dr. Ramezani. Are you worried about the emotional state of so many people? We've talked about the pandemic so much, and we've talked about the health of people. But on the rise, we have seen suicide numbers go up. We've seen
Yeah.
depression go up. Mental illness issues are on the rise. Are you concerned?
Yes, I am. This is something that a lot of organizations have been talking about. The World Health Organization, American Psychological Association, and American Psychiatric Association. This is, I think, not only, I think we're all, as a nation, worried, but also mental health care professionals are specifically concerned, and we are doing things about it. Things to, for example, volunteer our time and really give back during this time. And I think, even though we're concerned and we're worried, this is really a time where I'm seeing and I'm witnessing a lot of people giving. Like, for example, I mentioned, mental health care professionals volunteering, but also there's artists and musicians who are just giving their music for free for people to listen to, just for the sake of wellness. There are organizations who are coming together to have projects for individuals who are in need. In California, they're promoting providers, mental health care professionals, to lower their fees for individuals who are damaged by the coronavirus, and people are responding. So I think, I'm worried, and at the same time, I'm also I'm also engaged myself, but also I see my colleagues giving their time and really making a difference. I think this is a time that we can really we could have a healthy response to this situation and grow as a society together.
What would your advice be to people who are watching right now? Just put them in all spectrum of the stress level, whether they just never learned the coping mechanisms of stress, or they did, and they're feeling, all of us are feeling something right now.
Yeah.
Given all the knowledge and expertise that you have, what would be your advice to us to navigate through these next few months, possibly years?
Yeah, that's very true. Possibly, and um, you know, m- my my suggestion is um, to really connect with other individuals and not to remain isolated. And this is coming not only from just my knowledge, but also my own personal experience. The idea that of social distancing, it really should be physical distancing, but we should really be in it together. We should really seek out and still, as much as we can, video our loved ones and still remain connected. Um, I think this is also a time of if some people can afford it, of giving, not necessarily with money, but also your time and your efforts. This is a compassionate act of helping people. And I think when we do compassionate acts of giving, not only for others and but for ourselves, we feel energized and we feel well. We really need to do this. I think also, being able to have some sort of regular wellness practice, and this could be so many things. This could be either connecting with a group. It could be something as simple as yoga, or something that I enjoy doing, like meditation, even if it's just for 1 minute a day. And I think, for some folks who may be challenged by the situation, it's very important to know that this is a hard situation, and it is a situation that is changing. And sometimes it's okay not to be okay. And so that in and of itself, I think is an act of kindness towards the self. It's kind of like giving ourselves permission to be able to really be as we are, without having to be the perfect parent or the perfect worker or the student. And so just really practicing this way of relating to ourselves. It's almost like we have relationships with other people, but really building that relationship with ourselves. This is the time, I think, for us to do this. And then there's formal ways of doing it. These are, as I'm making these suggestions, these are very informal, but there are very formal ways of actually going through this. There are, programs, classes. I could talk more about that, but
I know you can. And I'm still stuck on the one thing that I will probably carry out of this interview and take with myself, is that it is okay not to be okay.
Yes.
And to say that out loud, and to feel that that it is okay not to be okay, and to know that others are going through the same thing, I think just in itself makes you go,
yes. Just relax, right? We that right there is it's just a wonderful place to be, to really feel grounded in the middle of a situation that is chaotic. Like one of my colleagues says, it's like breathing underwater. Like you're sort of grounded, you're able to function, but it's a challenging place, and that. So yeah.
this has been so enlightening, Dr. Ramezani. I'm going to take that with me every time I have those meltdown moments, and I have them. I have 4 kids. I have a stressful job, and everything in my world is changing. So I get it. I get it. I get it. And I share my weaknesses as well, or my challenges, my vulnerabilities, because I want other people to know that it is okay not to be okay. And then you shift afterwards, right? There's a way to shift afterwards.
Yes, I think yes. And I think that is the shift in and of itself, because we're sort of like on autopilot. Like we wake up, we got to do X, Y, and Z, and then we rarely have time to give ourselves permission to say, things, I'm gonna just be as I am, and that there's nothing wrong with that. And that doesn't mean I'm going to be passive and let go. It just means that I'm still going to try to take care of things. There's this practice where it's a meditation practice where you bring meditation to unpleasant activities and pleasant activities. And really, most people have different experiences, but some people recognize that, being able to do the activity is just the activity, but my experience of it is very different. It could be pleasant, it could be unpleasant, it could be neutral, it could just simply be me doing the activity without reactivity emotionally.
Well, my experience today was extremely pleasant with you. I so appreciate your time. I'm a big fan of you and what you're able to teach us, to be able to just figure out this thing. I always say it is what it is. Like this is what it is, right? And now what are you going to do with it? And now how are you going to react? We may not, one of my favorite quotes is, you may not be able to change the storm that surround us, but we sure can choose what we're going to do in that storm. And I choose to dance.
Oh,
so I appreciate you. Thank you, Dr. Ramezani. And please, we're going to have you back on, because there's so much more we can talk about that brain behind you. Thank you, Dr. Ramezani.
Thank you, Shally.
You've been listening to It Is What It Is with Shally Zomorodi. You can join in and ask your questions live on Shally's Facebook or Instagram page. You can find so much more by following Shally on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and by visiting shald.com.